Alright, greetings everybody and welcome. This video has been delayed about as long as I can, mostly because I was waiting for something to happen that just didn't quite happen. So we're going to have to make do for this video. I promise that as soon as I can, I will start getting, the usual things going. And not to mention Shadow Links, Initial Judgment, that needs to happen. So don't worry, it's still on my radar. So first off, let's talk about Umbra's rant. And this is not like a really big deal. I'm going to acknowledge that this isn't the end of the world or anything like that. It's just annoying to me. Wind Veritas came out, and Wind Veritas was unbelievably easy to obtain. It was fantastic, and basically it was just kind of, you just need the shards to get him up to 120. Later he'll get his 140. Maybe he'll get a limit burst update eventually. But I generally applaud how they did Wind Veritas. I completely am annoyed with how they are doing Water Veritas. Water Veritas is not tied to the wave battle system as Wind Veritas was. Water Veritas is tied to Arena. So even though her data is in the game, even though you can see the friend unit here, everybody on JP cannot get her right now because we need to wait for Arena to reset next Monday. Now, I'm just going to say this. Why is the base character not directly through a challenge board? Why did they choose this particular method? And what does this mean potentially for future frustrations? Because I want Water Veritas, one of my favorites from FFPE, and this is kind of a little bit has completely deflated me from playing Wodev for the rest of the week, because it's just like, oh look, yes, I've been waiting, and we gotta wait a little bit longer. Well, again, not the end of the world, but it is annoying. I do wonder, because apparently they are going to be doing all of these Verituses through different methods of accessibility, and what that exactly means, especially with errors, glitches, and all-around fuck-ups on the part of the Wodev team recently, where a lot of limited events keep having problems with them. Hey, you want to play limited guild battle this time around? Well, guess what? There's another error that has canceled it. Hey, you want to do a limited style event? Well, its scheduling is completely different. And what the fuck does it exactly mean in the future when, like, old content just doesn't happen that much anymore, such as raids and whatnot? Again, I'm sure they have a plan, but it seems to be a little bit janky, stupid, and I don't generally like it. Now, taking a look at Water Veritas, I do like this character. I'm not going to say that she's the most OP thing yet, because we really haven't had that much time to essentially look at this character, and I am waiting for Wodev Calc data to come out to make real judgments on her. But overall, her stats look generally pretty nice in a team that's right now completely and almost entirely physical. Here you see her just with a pretty high magic stat, given that, again, on a mostly physical-based water team, and incredibly high speed. Just taking a look, yeah, I mean, you can get kind of an idea that this is a very, very fast party anyway, but her speed seems to be keeping up. Magic stat looks good. She has a fairly high amount of defense and spirit too, good accuracy, and decent both AoE and single target resistance in this party. Strong asterisk. Noting across her resistances doesn't look particularly that great, but not necessarily that bad either. Looks like he does have a interesting, fairly wide range counter ability that has some HP restore on it, and kind of a nice counter there. Taking a look here, speed, spirit, and critical all affected on one, and magic, spirit, and ability activation time. Now, again, I haven't dwelled too much into this because there is just, I want to see Wodev Calc numbers, and the Wodev Calc numbers should be up within the next day or so, so I'm going to kind of hold out for that. But overall, I'm liking the look of her kit. The one thing I didn't look at was her Trust Mastery, which Wind Veritas' Trust Mastery was pretty damn good from what I remember of it being able to essentially cancel out wind. So we're just going to take a look right here together. Increased debuff resistance on allies within 3 turns, which doesn't sound that amazing, but I am curious about how much debuff resistance you're getting. Again, when Veritas' TMR was really, really good from my perspective, especially if haste is around, and I'm just curious about, you know, maybe how good this actually is. It seems pretty good for a tank if you can't debuff a tank if it's like really high debuff resistance, but we'll see. Long and short of it, Water Veritas looks like she's going to be a ton of fun when she's actually available, but she's not available now, so we're moving on. All right, JP saw an upgrade to one of the wave battles. Wind Veritas has now access to his level 140. There's 2 new VCs. The VC for the Japanese movie that I talked about previously, it turns out that it's basically one of the global VCs that you guys got earlier that they've essentially put new artwork on, and I have no idea what that means for the future. I would assume that it's not going to show up for you guys, but yeah, I don't know, put a giant asterisk on it and a comment of "we'll see." As for the other new VC, the free pull basically gave the first copy of it, which is generally pretty nice. I also got extra UR, so I'm not sure if I just got really lucky or I'm just being paranoid. But yeah, the last thing to talk about really is this, the new version of Kitone, who, while this dark party is not particularly, set up to be any kind of evasion party, because you look here in Vivi, well, Vivi's got 12 evasion, and here we got 9 evasion, and new Kitone has -9 evasion? Curious and curiouser. Taking a look at this character's new weapon, I mean, it's got some pretty nice strike damage in general. Elemental chain resistance of 25, AP cost down, and if HP is over 70%, damage reduction, which kind of works into her kit, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. As for her Trust Mastery, you can see it has critical defense, a little bit of speed on it, which is nice and actually harkens back to the original Kitone Trust Mastery. Again, put a pin in that comment. We'll talk about it in a second. But makes you less likely to be targeted by enemies, reduces AP consumption for 3 turns, and increases reaction prevention rate. Overall, nice looking Trust Mastery. Curious if the numbers have been better than some previous stuff, but overall looks like a nice Trust Mastery, including that it has 8 agility, which is fast. As for Kitone, whatever. Taking a look at my Dark Elemental party, not as fast as my Water Elemental party, because I just, am more of a Water player right now than I am a Dark player. Taking a look at her stats, there's some good stuff here. Good against magic as well as shooting, and we have overall net positive in this party with Slash and Pierce, with Strike being the one thing she's not particularly great at. Overall, I think her offense feels a little weak, but then you have to remember this is mostly a magical based group, so yeah, that's not necessarily pushing her as high as she could be. Lots of good speed though, really nice accuracy too, not necessarily great AoE resistance, but I am curious about her dodge, because whether this is just obviously it doesn't have dodge equipment, it doesn't necessarily bode well that in the exact same type of party, Vivi has a little bit more dodge than she does. Equipment not overly being considered too terribly much. But we do get a general better idea for why this character is going to be strong in the future. And, preemptively, because again, I do want to see the Woad of Calc Datas before I do terribly much. But taking a look at this, Counter ability. When receiving damage, has a chance of increasing own CT, gives an effect for absorbing part of the HP damage dealt for 1 turn, which is a really strong and interesting new counter that most characters do not have. Because, yeah, HP regeneration from a counter means that her next attack, a really strong attack, I mean, any of her attacks that could be just really, really strong, then this is potentially a fair amount of HP. Now, taking a look at her abilities, this is kind of a bit of where we're getting a little bit of that evasion rate down, because we're getting attack and accuracy up. It's curious that this is being run. I haven't seen her board yet. I do believe that she does have another main job support skill, but they've opted to go for the Nightblade for higher accuracy and higher attack, and I'm curious as to why, but sure. Now, this is the major component here that I think a lot of people are going to. Speed and defense penetration rate up. Great, that's pretty nice. Hate down, also good, means that you won't be targeted too terribly much. Survive if HP is over 70% when receiving lethal damage. That's right, she actually has the original version of her characters hard-coded, you know, just block a fatal damage if her HP is over a certain amount. And as we covered yesterday, one of her abilities allows her to essentially siphon HP. Thank you for the comment who talked about that it's siphon, not suction. I didn't make that connection back then. But anyway, it essentially will allow her a good source of HP renewal from just being able to use any of her regular attacks and either getting that off of her counter or her main kit. Pretty cool. And this being hard-coded in is a way around, you know, some of the people out there with just this kind of effect cancellation. So I do like this. It is looking to be very synergistic. It just depends if the damage is there. Which does remind me, I have basically heard that in her kit, she does have some strike resistance shred. I have not confirmed about how much that is. It is just something I've heard from someone who has this character already. Here, her job level 25, after destroying barriers that reduce physical damage. Also a higher accuracy ability here. Recovers AP if own HP is 50% or below, which is, you know, neat. I mean, they're basically doing some new stuff with this character that we haven't necessarily seen before. And I've heard that her other support skill is essentially from her main job, does have another interesting aspect. Yesterday we talked about the fact that Kitone has a lot of CT addition to herself if she uses certain attacks and abilities, which is cool. That's great. That's potentially really, really strong. But one of her other support skills supposedly can also remove the opponent's ability to CT down, which, again, not everywhere that you see, but it is something that will overall improve her kit. I like Kitone so far. I think that her new version is particularly looking pretty interesting. I want to see what she looks like on a Dark Elemental party, and I want to see what, you know, all the specific data looks like before I get too over the moon. But I think fans of this character will be generally impressed with how this character will end up being, and kind of just waiting to see where she's best. Because, yeah, I think she'll be really good in especially cost limited stuff. So we'll end showing off the limit burst here. And again, nice, feels like some callbacks to her old style, but punchier. So anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy this. Let me know what you think of Kitone and Water Veritas so far. And again, we'll have a much more in-depth look probably tomorrow. See ya.